It seems we hear about new, groundbreaking research at Mayo Clinic nearly every day. But sometimes it's how that research is done that is the most surprising.
That's right. ABC 6 News anchor Brianna Cook shows us how one tiny insect is making a big impact in a Mayo research lab.
Thank you.
It's a part of her life that TERI Woodhull has unfortunately gotten used to.
You are all hooked up.
Getting treatment for cancer.
I was diagnosed in November 2010 at the age of 47 with advanced ovarian cancer.
These past 10 years have been a roller coaster.
There have been times when I was so weak I couldn't get out of bed.
From clinical trials to becoming cancer-free only to get it again, TERI has been through it all. Now she's getting maintenance treatment at Mayo Clinic, basically trying to keep things stable as long as possible.
To have saline afterwards.
But as if the cancer and the chemo weren't enough to go through, TERI has to deal with a side effect of her cancer drugs, peripheral neuropathy, or nerve damage.
I don't have any feeling in the tips of my fingers, so I can't do things that require sort of that small movement. Can't thread a needle anymore, can't, manipulate certain things. And in my feet, I have a difficult time walking great distances.
And she's not alone. According to Mayo Clinic researchers, about 30% of people who get certain platinum-based cancer drugs get nerve damage, and for about half of them, it's permanent.
A quarter to a third of them, it's more disabling than the cancer was originally.
Dr. Anthony WINDEBANK heads up a research lab at Mayo, and he and his team are working to fix that side effect so the cancer drugs can just fix cancer and stop damaging nerves. But it's how they're going about that research that might seem a bit unusual.
We actually share about 60% of our genes with fruit flies.
Wait, what? Listen again.
We actually share about 60% of our genes with fruit flies.
Yes, he said fruit flies, and they're somewhat similar to humans. Dr. WINDEBANK and his team are using these small pests to solve this big problem. But working with such a tiny test subject isn't exactly easy.
Probably one of the most difficult things has been to actually get the drugs into the flies.
They solved that problem by turning the cancer drugs into fly food. But once it's in their system, how do you figure out how many of these flies actually get nerve damage?
And we slide them into our apparatus.
This machine will tap so the flies fall to the bottom of the vial. Then a camera will capture as they start to climb back up, and a computer program will then monitor and count each fly individually. And after about 7 years of that, there have been some major breakthroughs.
First of all, the fruit flies get the same problem as people get.
These scientists have discovered that these cancer drugs are actually damaging the mitochondria. If you remember, the mitochondria is the part of the cell that makes the energy, and they learn that if they alter the mitochondria just right, they can prevent that damage.
Now what we're trying to do is to say, well, can we find things that will prevent that in fruit flies that would then we could use in patients?
Patients just like TERI.
Because I have neuropathy, they're completely numb and I can't feel them and then I can't walk.
After her diagnosis, she joined the team at MOCA, or the Minnesota Ovarian Cancer Alliance. So to her, cancer research of all kinds is important, even if it's done with a pest.
Yeah, who would have thunk? Fruit flies, right? I mean, you sort of say that seems like a strange connection that fruit flies would have something in common with us. But I think it's fascinating.
And while it does seem strange, the eventual goal is to just make the lives of cancer patients and survivors easier. In Rochester, Brianna Cook, ABC 6 News.
Very interesting. Brianna, thank you. And you might have noticed that machine that helps the scientists count the fruit flies. Take a look at it. It turns out that that was a project in and of itself. Before this research, a machine like that didn't even exist, meaning scientists had to do it by hand. It was a tedious process, as you can imagine, so they brought the problem to Mayo's engineering department.
Because we haven't counted things like fruit flies before, and so, we start looking at the issue that they're having, and we're understanding, there's some challenges with consistency and how they tap down the tubes. There's challenges with counting the flies. They are so small and they move so fast. We have to figure that stuff out. So, we came up.
And right now, the engineers are working on a number of other projects, including designing new kinds of custom implants for orthopedic patients.